and welcome back to the LOP show. This is
Leadership on Purpose.
And I am Blake Bozarth. That was my son, Bear. And we have a special episode today. This is our first repeat guest on the show today, Charlie Bales. He's an absolute legend, Executive Vice President at ABC Fine Wine and Spirits. And it's an iconic brand. If you guys have ever been to the state of Florida, you've probably seen or encountered one of their stores, over 120 something stores, 1,600 employees, and an 87-year-old family business. Pretty amazing. So in this episode, we talk about one of the biggest buzzwords in leadership, and that is delegation. And we all know we should be delegating, but it can feel like, hey, what does it actually look like? It's very challenging. Charlie has a great story of how he's actually grown in that. It's a very painful process, but how he's grown in delegation. And we talk about the currencies of empowerment, which are clarity and trust. What does it look like to give clarity, extend trust? He has some great stories for that. He has an awesome analogy on the bullpen and the pitcher. So stay tuned for that. It's an absolute nugget. And we also talk about abdication, and that's an awesome nugget as well. Finally, we get into family business. So a lot of you listening to this are working in a family business. Some of you may even be the family part of that family business. And so he has some great perspective on that. And what do we like to ask you? If you enjoy this episode, if you get value from this, be a river, not a reservoir. Who could you share it with that could also get some value from it as well? And without further ado, let's jump into the show. We have our very first return guest on the show today. Very special. After 55 episodes, we got a second round coming back in due to popular demand. Charlie Bales, welcome back to Leadership on Purpose.
Thanks for having me, Blake. Looking forward to it.
Excited for it, man. Tell us about you and your career in 60 seconds. Go for it.
Man, that is extremely unfair, but I accept the challenge. So I'm an executive VP for an 87-year-old family business. And I could probably just stop there because, trying to explain that, a family business it's a startup, but it's also something that we're very good at. We know what we're doing in some areas. We have no idea what we're doing in other areas. And I've worked for this family business for 15 years, call it or so. And I've started in the stores. I ran territories. I've moved into corporate. I've run our warehouse. And now I'm in my current role. I oversee a number of different departments: IT, HR, risk management, accounting, and finance, just to name a few. Project management, which I didn't really know what that was 2 years ago, which now we have a department of 5 of project management. So, my role, I get to touch almost everything in the business. And it's a blast. You want to talk about continual learning. That's what I get.
Awesome. You hit it. 102, 1 minute, 2 seconds. Well done. For those who don't know, this is one of the iconic family-owned brands in the state of Florida. Yeah, you guys have just done an incredible job with your culture and your brand. So we're honored to get a repeat discussion today with you. So I got to ask you, last time we usually end with a BHAG question. So a personal, big, hairy, audacious goal. Do you remember what you said last time, what you were going after? You recall, by any chance?
No, but I'm sure you're going to tell me.
I just brushed up on it. You were going after Rich Froning. You were trying to win a CrossFit competition in your age category. How has that been going? How's the CrossFit life been?
I still do it. I love it. I think having 3 kids and a full-time job, there's no way you're going to ever compete with the best of the best, really at anything that requires your attention. If my full-time job were CrossFit, maybe I could, but when it's 8 or 10 hours a week and not 60, it's not going to pan out. I would say I'm in decent shape. I take care of myself. It's certainly my hobby outside of business and entrepreneurship and leadership. It's health and wellness, and overseeing a multi-million-dollar healthcare plan that we have at ABC. I feel it's part of my duty to be fit and in shape, or else that would kind of be an oxymoron a little bit. So I have not caught Rich Froning. I guess that's my long way of telling you I have not, I will not, but he's still awesome.
So your CrossFit is my pickleball, basically. So I like to tell myself, if I could dedicate the time that those pros dedicate to pickleball, I could be doing what they do too. Probably not true, but at least I tell myself that. So it makes me feel better. So I'm excited today. The meat of what we're talking about is going to be around delegation. One of the biggest buzzwords in leadership, right? Everyone knows to be an effective leader, you should be delegating. You need to be good at delegating. But we're going to demystify that a little bit. We're going to break it down a little bit and talk about what does it really look like in action. And for you, I know it's been a journey, Charlie. So talk to us a little bit about your journey with delegation and how you've started to make some significant gains over the last couple of years.
Delegation's tough. I mean, you kind of learn through experience. I think it's very hard to read a textbook and then just go apply it, because you have to actually go through some of the difficult conversations. You have to make the mistakes. When I took over our warehouse, for example, there are things that I know about running a warehouse, and there are things that I don't know because I've never run a warehouse before. And there's a high people that I can't physically do the job myself. Where if you're running an ABC store and it's a smaller volume, you could probably do the job, a lot of it yourself. We encourage our store leaders to not, because the job is actually huge. But if you want to be a salary team member and work 60, 70 hours and not follow some of our rules, we'll say, you can get away with it. And of course, we will catch that, and we don't promote it. But I just use that as a great example that I was that store manager. When I was 25, I worked in our stores for 70 hours a week. Nobody said anything because of my last name, and I can do it. But other people, we don't want that to happen. And so I think I learned delegation through experience, and I'm still not great at it because I like to be involved in everything. I like to know everything that's going on. I guess some would call that a control freak, and guilty. Certainly am. I think when your name is behind the business, you kind of have to be to a certain extent, but you also have to respect the fact that if you are controlling over your team, it's going to disempower them.
Hmm.
And it's not going to incentivize them taking accountability for their job and taking responsibility and doing the right things when you're not there. So it's really helped to oversee multiple departments for me. You can't run IT, HR, and accounting all at the same time every day. You have to have teams and people do the job for you. And I've been fortunate to have amazing people on my teams that carry out the jobs. And it's become much easier for me over the years to give them more work and stay attuned for the call. Cause it's really when you're in charge and you're empowering your team to do the jobs, you're kind of the guy in the bullpen. You're the pitcher waiting to get called up
Mm.
for when your team actually needs you. Because if you're the starting pitcher and the bullpen, you're going to get burnt out, and your team's going to quit on you at some point because you're micromanaging them. So it's really a weird feeling of, I tell people, or I tell a lot of my direct reports, that they are significantly more important than me, because if I just canceled everything on my calendar and did nothing, the business would still open and close product and be totally fine. Long term, there might be some implications, but day to day, it'd be totally fine. Where if they did that, we would implode. So it's a very strange position. You think you rise through the ranks, you rise through power, and you get more responsibility, but you actually, in order to be successful, I think you have to release that responsibility. I'm not saying abdicate responsibility. I'm saying delegate. And that is tough. I'm still learning.
I love that bullpen analogy. That's pretty brilliant. You just come up with that on the fly. Have you used that before? That's good.
I just came up with it, actually.
That's good stuff. So talk to me more about that last point, Charlie, around abdication versus delegation. So it seems like delegation gone wrong could be abdicating.
Well, if I just stopped going to our corporate office and played golf every day, which I would love to do, but if I did that and then just waited for people to call me, I think that's abdication. I'm not actively present. I'm not showing engagement. I'm not even showing that I'm there for you. But if my calendar, which used to have 12 meetings a day and constant, hour after hour after hour of interaction with this person, that person, now only has 4 meetings. And there's actually about 3 hours of my day where I'm sitting in my office and I have the ability to check email or actually work on myself and do self-reflection and invest in strategic growth and think about where should the company be in 3 years, not tomorrow. I think that's the difference, abdication, you're just not participating anymore. Where delegation, I'm still there. I still go to our office. I might not be the focal point of the meeting. I might not be maybe nobody even comes to my office that day, which would be fantastic because then they're all doing their job and they're all feeling empowered to do their job. They know I trust them and I'm standing there. My office is right in the middle of everybody. So they see me, they know if I need to go see him, I can. But if I don't, he's totally okay with it. So, for me and our culture at ABC, we were actually one of the last employers to come back in person after COVID. We didn't open our doors until May of 22. And we actually still have a very hybridized workforce where, 2, 3 days a week, people are in the office, 2, 3 days a week, they're at home. But what I've seen is that the majority of people are actually in the office 3 or 4 days a week now because they want to come. They want to collaborate, have the water cooler conversation. So for me, at least in ABC's culture, I can't speak to Motorola's culture or Workday, but at ABC, I know if I am physically in the office multiple days a week, available with my door open for the team to ask me if they need me, I'm probably not going to abdicate my responsibilities.
You mentioned trust in that, Charlie, and there's something that when we work with companies and helping develop leaders. We talk about how really there's two currencies of empowerment. Learned this from Craig Rochelle, the legend. It says clarity and trust. So really knowing what your job is, why it's important, how it fits into the context, what success looks like, clarity around that, and then actually feeling trust that when you have just one of those things, it's impossible to be empowered. If you have trust, but you don't have clarity, you're like, oh, good, it's my baby, but what do I do?
Yep.
But if you have clarity, oh, this is super important. This is what success looks like, but you don't feel like you have trust. That's also, that produces fear, right? So talk to me a little about that for you. Like, what does it look like to extend that trust and create the clarity for your team to actually feel empowered?
That's really good. I think we've all, and a lot of listeners of your show, we've either worked in a company or been in a position where we've only had one of those two, where you do feel trusted, but you can't you have no idea what to do because you don't know the vision or you don't know the expense or you don't know how it's going to impact the business. So what I do, I have 5 direct reports and I meet with all 5 of them every Thursday. And I put together my notes from each one-on-one meeting and I send it to all 5 of them at the end of the day so that everybody knows what's going on in other departments. And I'm sure some people listen to that and they cringe because they're like, oh my gosh, you're taking ownership away. You're that radical transparency. Well, that's ABC's culture. That might not be your culture. And I totally respect that. That's not going to fly at Amazon. And I get it. But our culture is one of the least amount of silos possible. There's not going to be any room for misinterpretation or a lack of clarity. So I've had to learn those roles in my progression through the business. Because like I said, with the warehouse example, I don't know how to run a warehouse, but I can call people who do, and I can bring them in and I can actually tell people, hey guys, I know I'm the leader and I'm in charge of all of y'all and I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. I don't. I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm actually like, I'm here to go to war with you and I'm going to learn it with you and we're going to figure it out and I'm going to ensure that we're successful. So I think having that type of message and then actually backing it up, trust and clarity just come with it.
That's so good. But hey, you're the expert, not me. But I'm here I'm going to go to war with you. I'm going to dig in. I'm going to learn. I'm not going to abdicate because part of, I love that distinction between delegating and advocating, but if you're not going to abdicate, that means you do need to know what your team does. You do need to dig in. You do need to, especially if you're getting new authority and new responsibility for yourself, it means leaning into that. But it also looks like showing them that you trust them and truly giving them that sense of empowerment that makes them, that's what the best leaders do. The best leaders have teams that are really good at what they do and they play to their strengths and they're able to bring out the best in other people. So I can hear that. I can hear that completely in your style And I do think your point around culture matters, Charlie, too. So like certain leadership styles may not jive as well in certain cultures, but the culture that you guys have created at ABC, that works perfectly with. So, hey, I want to switch to something. Talk to me more about family business. And I think we have a lot of in the audience that work in family business. We have some in our audience that have spent time leading as part of a family in a family business. 87 years, I think you said for ABC, if I'm not mistaken. What does that look like to lead and to kind of take over succession, if you will? It seems like that's been the case for you and your cohort. What does it look like to do that in a family business? What are the challenges and how have you guys navigated through that?
The biggest challenge is that everybody has to be a willing participant, meaning you have to have the vision of either where you want the company to go. That doesn't necessarily mean everybody has their defined role. Like I have my role, my cousin has his role, my brother-in-law has his role. No, 3 years ago, we didn't know that. I would say we know now pretty much what we're all going to do. And it's worked out perfectly that we all are doing things that we want to do, but we all grew into that mindset as well. That, you know, I'm not an IT guy. I've never understood IT yet. And it's something that I did dig into the past few years and learn as much as I could, but trust the people that I actually know. So every every person that's a member of the family that is in the business has to be able to do that. And every one of us has. But I think that the generation that is in charge really holds the burden of the most responsibility. So for me, that was my father and my uncle. And then we have another family of ABC, and they have two board members as well that I'll include. And that, that generation three, that G3, that they all have to be okay with the direction and giving up, delegating their power, which most generations in charge have an extremely difficult time doing that. And there's a huge power struggle between generations. And that didn't really happen with us because that third generation just performed their duty so well. So if there are members of a family business listening to this, and there was one piece of advice I would give, it's that the third generation, or I'm sorry, that just the generation that's in power, let go and relinquish, calculate the right things to let go and relinquish at the right time and allow the fourth generation to spread their wings. And because our leaders did that, and they deserve the credit of where we are today and why we're in a position that we're not looking 2-3 years down the line. We're looking 10, we're looking 15. I mean, we are all in lockstep alignment of here's where we want to go and let's go execute. That's because the third generation's foresight and commitment to the plan.
And I love how that dovetails so well, actually, with the theme around delegation, like them being able to be able to let go and let a new generation come in and step up. Really good. One more topic I wanted to hit with you before we let you go, Charlie. Last time our episode was on winning the talent battle. We spent a lot of time talking about how you guys handle talent attraction and development, and especially in what has been a very challenging labor market. Revisit 2 years later, we're a bit more removed from the pandemic times, pandemic craziness now. What's the labor market look like for you guys, and how have you been able to still win the talent battle? What does that look like to avoid, you termed it last time, warm body syndrome? What does it look like to avoid warm body syndrome and actually still select strategic talents?
It's a topic that we could spend an entire episode on. And I do think that pay is a part of it. Obviously, you hear people say people don't work for money, and that's not the number one reason. And I get it. I work in HR, and all that's correct. But since the last time we talked, our pay has probably gone up 30-35% at store level. And our corporate salaries have gone up, not that much, but they've gone up as well. So you do have to compete on pay. So we've been fortunate to make those moves at the right time. But the Florida market is strange. We're in a state that 1 in every 3 houses is bought with cash. So
I know that. Wow.
yeah, so the people aren't moving here to work at Publix or ABC or Disney. They're they're moving here to enjoy the weather and enjoy their lives and their savings. And, hopefully they move here with kids or family or a young family that can come work in retail or the service industry, which is the backbone of Florida's tourism.
Hmm.
So we are fortunate that Florida's growing, but to your question of the talent pool is not fantastic. So, you have to be very selective. And what that means to us is giving clarity to here's what the job is. Here's what we're looking for. Here's our culture. Our culture is very different than what maybe you worked at competitor A or substitute B, or if you worked in Ohio or wherever. Here's our culture. I had a conversation with somebody today. It was my second conversation with them. They just joined our team. They work in our risk department. We more or less poached them from another employer because they were awesome and they liked our culture. But conversation number two, and I'm cracking a joke on her, and she hits me right back in the face. She totally won the engagement. If there's a winner and a loser, and like I just look at everybody, I'm like, wow, she just put me in my place. She fits in perfectly. So, that kind of collaboration, communication doesn't fly in other places. So how we are waging the talent war is just being ourselves and being extremely transparent on our values and what the culture is like, and that we do have a culture of empowerment, and it is one of our values. And if that makes you uncomfortable, which a lot of people it does, they don't want to be empowered. They just want to be told what to do. When can they go home? How much PTO do I get? What's the medical? Goodbye. You're not going to last very long working for us. So, but I would recommend, any company out there that's trying to win the talent war, first be patient on who you're hiring. We have dozens of openings, and we are not hiring the warm body as if we can't help it. I mean, there are certain instances where we have stores that just have to be staffed and you get through it, but maybe we could offer overtime. Maybe we could bring in a SWAT team from another store to help out. We're really getting creative and looking for ways to fill it, but we've had our troubles over the past few years with store hiring, but not nearly what you hear on the news. I mean, we are very well staffed. I would say any opening we have in the corporate office, we are giving probably 100 applicants per opening. So corporate jobs are easier to fill than store jobs,
Hmm.
but at the same time, we're getting dozens of applicants for store jobs because I hope that people just understand the culture we have at ABC is one of respect and inspiration and empowerment. And if that's where you want to work, then fantastic, come along. But if you want rules and guidelines, and which we have those, don't get me wrong, but I think part of having a culture of empowerment is our rules aren't, 1, 2, 3. They're 1 through 100, and then here's some gray area for you to play with. So we're really winning that battle by being ourselves.
What strikes me in that, Charlie, is the way you're unapologetically owning your culture and your values, being very transparent in those, and you're using that as a repellent, actually, maybe even more so than an attraction. But the irony of that is that when you're using that as a repellent in some ways, you're attracting the right people. You're actually, by not being all things to all people, which a lot of companies may do inadvertently, like they don't maybe intend to do that, but they end up doing that in the way that they go about things, by not trying to be all things to all people, by actually drawing some lines in the sand and saying, hey, this is who we are, this is who we're not. And if you're looking for this, then this is not going to be the right fit. That actually attracts the people that you truly want.
You're absolutely right. The old adage, the customer is always right. I actually believe that no, the customer is not always right. The majority of times they are, but there are circumstances where they're not, and you can apply the same to the candidate. The candidate who wants to come work at the business, and they ask you, company, can you do this for me? Can you be this for me? To your point, no, we can't. That's not who we are. Here's who we are. If you like it, you can work here forever. And, that really worked out for us. And it amazes me. We have a gathering at the corporate office once a month, and that might be the one time people come into the office every month to see everyone and celebrate birthdays and anniversaries for that one month. And every single month, the anniversary in terms of years is close to 1,000. And I mean, that just doesn't happen for a retail company where turnover's 60, 70, 80, 100%. That's not our turnover. Our turnover's well south of. So clearly we're doing something right. And I think you just uncovered it, that we're being unapologetic for who we are by pushing people away and attracting the right ones.
So good. That's so good. And that no matter where you are, no matter what type of company or industry you're in, I think that holds true. And that's very powerful, especially in a challenging labor market. The ones who have done that well and they built a culture that is identifiable, it's something that you can actually articulate to others and it's real. They're the ones who are, it's a tough labor market, but they're the ones who are winning relative. So really good stuff, man. I want to get you out on this. We talked about the BHAG from last time. Do you have what would you say is a current big, hairy, audacious goal personal to you that you're going after these days?
Well, I have a number of goals. I think goals are extremely important to always have and to always look at and change. I'm not going to be a professional CrossFit athlete. And to stick with the theme of athletics, because everybody's an athlete, whether you think you are or you're not. If you're standing up and walking every day, you're an athlete. I would love to consistently beat my father at golf and be a scratch golfer. And he's 70 years old and still shoots his age the majority of times, which is
What?
sickening. And so my new rule, especially at CrossFit too, and this is why I will not be Rich Froning, is if this exercise does not improve my golf game, which is almost everything at CrossFit, because it's a very violent sport, then I'm not doing it. So hopefully the next time we talk, maybe in 2 years or 3 years, I will be a scratch golfer. Probably not, because I work too much and have 3 kids. Don't have time to be a scratch golfer, but that's my goal.
I love it, man. That's a great one. Hope your dad knows you're coming after him now. Hey, this has been a blast, just like last time, man. Thanks so much for making time and coming on the show. We appreciate you. Where's the best place for people to find you online?
You can just go to my website. My website is just my name, charliebales.com. I created it actually about a year or so ago as an offshoot to this. I teach a class at Rollins College in Orlando just one night a week. It's a leadership class, and I reference all the books that I've read. I really don't teach anything. I just reference this book, that book, pull out that. And people said, recommend me a book. So I just created a book list on that and now have a website. It's still a work in progress, but it's really a resource for myself to tell people I read 1,000 books. Here's the list. But I did put a contact me tab on there in the event somebody wanted to get in touch. So just go to that website.
Awesome. Appreciate you, man. If you enjoyed this episode, the best thing you can do is be a river, not a reservoir. Who could you share this with that could also get value from it as well? Until next time, keep leading on purpose. Peace.